Hey, it's Medium Jenny Lee with a special edition of the Raw Session book discussion videos in which I am not wearing my pajamas and I have lipstick on. I usually record these on like Saturday or Sunday morning when I'm still in my pajamas, and I waited today to record it later, and I've showered and I have actual clothes on. And I just recorded the Spirit Cats unboxing video, Spirit Cats calendar unboxing video. So everything's all done up for my my nicer YouTube videos. So there you go. Let's get started. We're on session 49, which makes this video number 50. Holy crap. I've done 50 of these? What was I thinking? Oh, no, I'm just kidding. All right, let's do this. Session 49. Dawn asks, would you please first give us a reading on the instrument's condition? Poor Carla has had problems for months now, and Ross said it's previously stated. Dawn says, thank you. Jim has a question. He says, for the past 9 years, I have had what I call frontal lobe experiences in the pre-consciousness state of sleep, just before I wake up in the morning. There are a combination of pleasure and pressure which begins in the frontal lobe and spreads in pulses through the whole brain and feels like an orgasm in my brain. Good God, Jim. I have had over 200 of these experiences, and often they are accompanied by visions and voices which seldom make much sense to me. What is the source of these frontal lobe experiences? Wow. We scan the questionnaire and find some pertinent information already available which regards the physiological disposition of this particular part of the brain. The experiences described and experienced are those distillations which may be experienced after a concentration of effort upon the opening of the gateway or indigo mind complex so that experience of a sacramental or violet ray may occur. These experiences are the beginnings of that which, as the body, the mind, and the spirit become integrated at the gateway or indigo level, may then yield not only the experience of joy, but the compression of intelligent infinity, which accompanies it. Thus, the body complex... I'm like a middle schooler. It says orgasm. Thus, the body complex orgasm and the mind complex orgasm being integrated may then set forth the proper gateway for the spiritual complex integration and its use as a shuttle for the sacrament of the fully experienced presence of the one infinite creator. Thus, there is much to which the questioner may look forward. That just wrote, haha. This whole paragraph, this whole section so far. Okay. So, very interesting information here. Not just because it said orgasm 3 times, but having a physical sensation in your body being related to this gateway opening to the intelligent infinity, which can be how you connect with the source, the one infinite creator, the energy of all things. It's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And for me personally, I get head tingles all the time. Like, as a matter of fact, I'm having them right now, where like the whole top of my head will just be tingling, tingling, tingling. And for me personally, that's my sign and symbol and flag says spirit is near, spirit is close, spirit's trying to connect with me for whatever reason. There's like tons of different reasons. And then this is similar to what Dawn's experiencing. A sensation in the front part of his brain. Opening the gateway to the intelligent infinity. I like it. Not just because it says orgasm. All right, Dawn asks to Jim, do you have any addition to that question? Jim says, no thanks. Dawn says, okay. Now we're going back to Ra. I was wondering, in a previous session you had mentioned the left and right ear tones. If the left and right brain were somehow related to the polarities of service to self and service to others, could you comment on this? We may comment on this. And here we go. This has been happening, and it continues to happen for the rest of the sessions in this whole book, that Dawn asks a question and Ra says, yeah, I can answer that, and then doesn't say anything else. It's like, is Ra like purposefully messing with Dawn? And then Dawn says, well, please, will you go ahead and comment on it? The lobes of your physical complex brain are alike in their use of weak electrical energy. The entity ruled by intuition and impulse is equal to the entity governed by rational analysis when polarity is considered. What? Okay, so weak electrical energy, yeah, I got that. The entity ruled by intuition and impulse is equal to the entity governed by rational analysis when polarity is considered. The lobes may both be used for service to self or service for others. Weird. It may seem that the rational or analytical mind might have more of a possibility of successfully pursuing the negative orientation due to the fact that too much order is, by essence, negative. However, this same ability to structure abstract concepts and to analyze experiential data may be the key to rapid positive polarization. It may be said that those whose analytical capacities are predominant have somewhat more to work with in polarizing. Well, that was a confusing paragraph. The function of intuition is to inform intelligence. In your illusion, the unbridled predominance of intuition will tend to keep an entity from the greater polarizations due to the vagaries of intuitive perception. As you may see, these two types of brain structure need to be balanced in order that the net sum of experiential catalyst will be polarized in illumination. For without the acceptance of the rational mind of the worth of the intuitive faculty, the creative aspects which aid in illumination will be stifled. Oh man, that's a tough one. It's a tough couple paragraphs there. So it's saying that the left brain, because of its rational, analytical organization, can lead more to negative, but it helps us to understand information and put abstract concepts together. And the right brain, being more of the intuition and creative part, really needs the left brain to make sense of all of the information that it's getting, or else it can't do what it needs to do. So it has to be a balance. There has to be a balance between the intuition and the analytical, the intuition and the rational. It can't just be one or the other. Makes sense, right? Everything in moderation. There is one correspondence between right and left, the positive and negative. The web of energy which surrounds your bodies contains somewhat complex polarizations. The left area of the head and upper shoulder is most generally seen to be a negative polarization. Remember, not bad negative, just negative polarization. Whereas the right is of positive polarization, magnetically speaking. So not good and bad, just negative and positive. This is the cause of the tone's meaning for you. Will you expand on the positive and negative magnetic polarization in general and how it applies to individuals and planets? I think there is a correlation here, but I'm not sure. It is correct that there is a correlation between the energy field of an entity of your nature and planetary bodies, for all material is constructed by the means of the dynamic tension of the magnetic field. The lines of forces in both cases may be seen to be much like the interweaving spirals of the braided hair. Thus, positive and negative wind and wind and interweave, forming geometric relationships in the energy fields of both persons, as you would call a mind-body-spirit complex and planets. Interesting. The imagery makes me think of like sacred geometry stuff. The negative pole is the south pole or the lower pole. The north is the upper pole, is positive. The crisscrossings of these spiraling energies form primary, secondary, and tertiary energy centers. You are familiar with the primary energy centers of the physical, mental, and spiritual body complex. Secondary points of the crisscrossing of positive and negative center orientation revolve about several of your centers. The yellow ray center may be seen to have secondary energy centers in the elbow, knee, and in subtle bodies at slight spaces from the physical vehicle at points describing diamonds about the entity's navel area surrounding the body. So we got all kinds of stuff going on here. Knees and elbows, navel. One may examine each of these energy centers for such secondary centers. Some of your peoples work with these energy centers, and you call this acupuncture. Oh, however, it is to be noted that there are most often anomalies in the placement of the energy centers, so that the scientific precision of this practice is brought into question. Like most scientific attempts at precision, it fails to take into account the unique qualities of each creation. Ha! Calling out the scientists there. The most important concept to grasp about the energy field is that the lower or negative pole will draw the universal energy into itself from the cosmos. Therefrom, it will move upward to be met and reacted to by the positive spiraling energy moving downward from within. The measure of an entity's level of ray activity is the locus wherein the South Pole outer energy has been met with the inner spiraling positive energy. So that's interesting, because you would think that the South Pole, North-South Pole, like bringing in energy from the Earth, but it says it's bringing it in from the cosmos, and then the positive North one is bringing it downward from within. It's kind of confusing. As an entity grows more polarized, this locus will move upwards. This phenomenon has been called by your peoples the Kundalini. However, it may better be thought of as the meeting place of the cosmos and inner, vibratory understanding. To attempt to raise the locus of this meeting without realizing the metaphysical principles of magnetism upon which this depends is to invite great imbalance. So I've heard a lot about Kundalini. I've read about it in my yoga class. There's like, it gets talked about. And I understand it as an energy moving up through your energy centers. But why don't we look it up a little bit? Since we's here. That way, if somebody's watching this and they don't understand what we're talking about, then this will help a little bit. Okay. Oh my God. Kundalini means coiled snake, is a form of divine feminine energy. This is from Hinduism. That is believed to be located at the base of the spine and is the divine feminine power associated with divine feminine, or the formless aspect of the goddess. Can be spiritual liberation. You can have Kundalini awakenings, meditation and yoga, mantras. Distinct feeling of an electrical current running along the spine. Very interesting. Now there's a lot more we could go into with this, all this Kundalini stuff, because I know there's like a ton of information. But to review what Ra says about it, I lost the page. I didn't lose the page, I lost the paragraph. Ra says that you're drawing the universal energy from the cosmos and the spiraling energy from within. It is better thought as the meeting place of the cosmic and the inner. And then gives a warning that to attempt to raise this locus of this meeting without realizing the metaphysical principles of magnetism upon which this depends is to invite great imbalance. So it has to do with the magnetism also. Really interesting. What process would be the recommended process for correctly awakening the Kundalini, and of what value would that be? The metaphor of the coiled serpent being called upwards is vastly appropriate for consideration by your peoples. This is what you are attempting when you seek. There are, as we have stated, great misapprehensions concerning this metaphor and the nature of pursuing its goal. There's a footnote here that's stated in 49.5, which was here, right? That's 49.5? Yes. So it's referencing that. We must generalize and ask that you grasp the fact that this, in effect, renders far less useful than that which we share. However, as each entity is unique, generalities are a lot when communicating for your possible edification. Good God, Ra. We have two types of energy. We are attempting, then, as entities, in any true color of this octave, to move the meeting place of inner and outer natures further and further along or upward along the energy centers. The two methods of approaching this with sensible method are, first, the seeding within one's self of those experiences which are attracted to the entity through the South Pole. Each experience will need to be observed, experienced, balanced, accepted, and seated within the individual. As the entity grows in self-acceptance and awareness of catalysts, the location of the comfortable seating of these experiences will rise to a new true color entity. The experience, whatever it may be, will be seated in red ray and considered as to its survival, content, and so forth. Each experience will be subsequently understood by the growing and seeking mind-body-spirit complex in terms of survival, then personal identity, then social relations, then universal love, then in terms of how the experience may beget free communication, then in terms of how the experience may be linked to universal energies, and finally in terms of the sacramental nature of each experience. Let's stop a second. So it's saying it's going through the chakras from the beginning, from the red all the way up. And in order for this Kundalini to move up, this meeting place of the cosmic and the inner to move up, each experience needs to be observed, experienced, balanced, accepted, and seated within the individual person. And the order which they move up is red is the survival. Think about animals. They're only worried about surviving. They got to eat, they got to procreate, they got to stay safe. It's like what they're worried about. That's the red. Then it moves up to the orange, which is about personal identity. Then it moves up to the yellow, how we interact with each other. Then it moves up to the heart, the green, which is universal love. And then moves up to the blue, which is your throat chakra, free communication. And then it moves up to the indigo, which is your third eye, which is about experiencing universal energies. And then finally to the violet, which is your crown chakra, sacramental nature of each experience. How it connects with, you know, like the source. And then this is making me think of also all the densities, because each one of our personal energy centers is related to each density too. Interesting. Meanwhile, the creator lies within. I wrote, whoa. In the North Pole, the crown is already upon the head, and the entity is potentially a god. Think about that for a second. This energy is brought into being by the humble and trusting acceptance of this energy through meditation and contemplation of the self and of the creator. Humble, trusting acceptance of this energy through meditation and contemplation of the self and of the creator. Where these energies meet is where the serpent will have achieved its height. When this uncoiled energy approaches universal love and radiant being, the entity is in a state whereby the harvestability of the entity becomes nigh. And then Dawn asks, will you recommend a technique of meditation? And Ra says no. Just straight up no. Okay, let's go back first. Okay, gonna get into my own personal journey experiences here, and it's going to dive into some religion stuff for a second, and I do apologize because I would prefer not to talk about that, but all the religions have bits and pieces and chunks of like all of this in there, and I've been reading a book about Jesus's apostles, and I'm not going to go into why I'm reading that right now, but I did not grow up in a Christian household. I've never been a Christian. I've gone to church many times, but through other people, never of my own fruition. And just this morning, I read a part in it that made me, that when I read it, I was like, and then it just came up again here. So the book is written by Tom Bissell. It's called Apostle Travels Through the Tombs of the 12. Something like that. Don't quote me exactly. And he grew up as a Christian. He lost his faith. Then he becomes a journalist. So he wants to re-examine his own faith through historical documents, visiting all the tombs of the apostles, which most of them, it's like, are they even really the people that they say they are? Who knows? And so the book is like a combination of like travel, documentation, historical documents, speculation, biblical stuff, etc. So in this last chapter, it was about Philip and James, who's maybe supposedly Jesus's brother. And he's in the very last, it's the very end of the chapter. and he's in Rome at this church that's supposedly where Philip and James their remains are. And he meets this guy who's on a spiritual, he's on a religious tour. He's from Tennessee, you know, so he's like Southern, Southern American Christian. And he's in this Catholic church, and the author sits down with him and they have a conversation, and he's asking him all these questions about what he thinks about the apostles and all that. And, you know, Christians don't view the apostles like the Catholics do, because they don't want to worship saints. That's like blasphemous. So he's talking about how he can appreciate the apostles just in the fact that they were Jesus's friends and that they were doing God's work, basically. But he cannot look at them in the way that Catholics do, because to think of them on the same level, my whole head is going crazy right now, to think of them at the same level as Jesus is blasphemous, because only Jesus is the Son of God, nobody else. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, you know, I don't want to tell anybody what to believe, but just from my own personal experiences and understanding of things, I feel like Jesus was trying to tell people that we are made in the image of the Creator, not in our physical bodies, but in our energetic spirits, because we are the Creator. And by saying that, Jesus saying, I'm the Son of God, he's saying we all are. And humans are the ones that started putting these caps on everything. Because if everybody realized their true potential, then no one else would be able to control anybody else. There would be no power or control over others if everyone realized their true potential, because we all are the Creator. And then here it is. Ra says, meanwhile, the Creator lies within. The North Pole, the crown, is already upon the head, and the entity is potentially a god. We're made in his image because we are him, which saying him is just wrong anyway. We are made in Source's image because we are Source. And we're made in Source's image because Source is the creator of all things, and we too create things. Merry Christmas. Oh no. Let's keep going. Okay, so one more time, Dawn asks, can you recommend a technique of meditation? And Ra just says no. No, we can't. Not going to go into why, because it'll go against your free will. Just says no. Dawn says, is it better, does it produce more usable results in meditation to leave the mind as blank as possible, let it run down, so to speak, or is it better to focus in meditation on some object or something of concentration? Each of the two meditations is useful for a particular reason. The passive meditation involving the clearing of the mind, the emptying of the mental jumble, which is characteristic of mind complex activity among your peoples, is efficacious for those whose goal is to achieve an inner silence as a base from which to listen to the Creator. This is a useful and helpful tool, and is by far the most generally useful type of meditation as opposed to contemplation or prayer. The type of meditation, which may be called visualization, has its goal not that which is contained in the meditation itself. Visualization is the tool of the adept. Those who learn to hold visual images in mind are developing an inner concentrative power that can transcend boredom and discomfort. When this ability has become crystallized in an adept, the adept may then do polarizing in consciousness without external action. Hell yeah, let's do that. Which can affect the planetary consciousness. Changing shit just by the use of your own mind. This is because thoughts are things. Okay, let me stop. This is the reason for existence of the so-called white magician. Only those wishing to pursue the conscious raising of planetary vibration will find visualization to be a particularly satisfying type of meditation. Contemplation or the consideration in a meditative state of an inspiring image or text is extremely useful also among your peoples, and the faculty of will, called praying, is also a potentially helpful nature. Whether it is indeed a helpful activity depends quite totally upon the intentions and objects of the one who prays. Okay, we're almost done with this session. Dawn asks if the 2-week sessions per week are still appropriate for Carla. We request your care in the placement of the neck support for this entity, as it is too often careless. You are conscientious and your alignments are well. The timing, if we may use the expression, of the sessions is basically correct. However, you are to be commended for observing fatigue in the circle and refraining from working until we are all in love, harmony, and vital energy of one being. I can attest to the neck supports because every time I've been channeling some sort of energy, my head goes backwards because I'm not laying down in a bed like Carla is. I'm sitting in a damn computer desk chair. So I've had to get a pillow to help support my own neck. So I hear you, Carla. All right, so let's talk about this last little part here because I think it is really important and very helpful. The different kinds of meditations. Clearing your mind so that you can tell your brain to shut the F up is a great way to listen to the Creator, your guides, your ancestors, your loved ones on the other side, your higher self, etc. Contemplation and prayer, definitely helpful, depending on the intentions of the person who's praying or doing the contemplating. Now here's the crazy part. Meditation, visualization meditation, can cause polarization in the person who knows what they're doing so that they can do polarizing without having to do external crap. And it affects the planetary consciousness, helping to raise the vibration of the whole planet. Because thoughts are things. But it has to be done by somebody who knows that they're doing it. Let's review this session. We've gotten to some deep stuff today. There's a lot of talk about orgasms at the beginning. not those kind of the mind. To show that you can access intelligent infinity, and it makes a sensation in your brain and in your head. All right. Then there was a lot of talk about the left and the right, and the north and the south, and the magnetism of our planet, and the positive and what all those things mean, positive and negatively, and our energy centers, and Kundalini. We got into Kundalini today, and learned that it's going up through each energy center, specifically focusing on what those energy centers represent. And then we talked about different kinds of meditation. A jam-packed but very short session. So join the discussion, put your thoughts, opinions, complaints, comments in the description. No, not in the description. I do the description. You put it in the comments. Put your comments in the comment section. Don't forget that we also have a Discord section on the Discord server. So if you want to talk about this more in depth with other people that have been reading and are watching these videos. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. If this is the first raw video you've come across, watch them in order. They don't make sense, not in order. At least I don't think that they would. Sorry if I made anybody angry about the Christianity stuff. But if I did, then you probably aren't here, because I don't know why you would be watching this. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!